Good day, folks. Welcome back to Ed's Garage at Merton Hyundai. Very excited to bring to you today the 2022 Kona Electric in the Ultimate trim. I was on vacation for a couple of weeks. I came back and all of a sudden we got a bunch of these 22s and I'm really excited to go over and see what the differences are. Now, it's just a minor refresh. It's not a lot of differences, but honestly, I haven't done a review on a Kona Electric in a while, and you know what? Now's a good time, especially considering they do look quite a bit different, especially in the front. So let's go over the beautiful 2022 Kona Electric. All right, so beginning the changes of the 22 Kona Electric with the front end, how do you guys like that? Now, personally, I am a big fan of the change to the front end on the Kona Electric. I was not a fan of the old Kona Electric's front end. I sell Hyundais for a living, and I normally if you look at something long enough, it starts to grow on you. I never really liked it. I personally preferred the Ioniq, which I drive, of course, but you know what? Now, love it. I think the front end looks way better. They got rid of the little fake grill lines in the front, and they just made it nice and smooth. And you know what? Pictures and video don't do it justice, so go check one out. Come see me at Merton Hyundai. I'm happy to help you out, of course. But let's talk about a couple other things on the front. So the badge is moved up a little bit as well. You still have the little indicator there for the accessory battery. You've got the forward-facing radar down here still, so nothing's really changed in those locations. Active shutters down here, of course, allowing cool air in. Now, this being the Ultimate trim, you do get the front parking sensors. And of course, a different new daytime running light / turn signal. It's basically the same in the same place, but it's redesigned. It does look a little bit different, a little bit more sleek. The headlights are very different, so check this out. So you have LED high beams and low beams, and they're reflective lens technology. So it's not using the projector lens of the old one, but now reflective. But they are still LEDs, and they're still very, very good. You can see here we've got, I don't know if you can see through there, LED Tech Hyundai, new little badge in there. Still got the air curtain pass through here, which of course creates a curtain of air over the front wheels, reducing aerodynamic drag. Speaking of the front wheels, check it out. So we're still on Nexen tires, but we've got 17-inch aluminum alloy rims, and man, are those better looking. That was one of my biggest gripes of the old Kona Electric, was the design of the wheels. I thought they were just downright ugly. When they redesigned they did the facelift update on the Ioniq, it got some really, really nice mags, and now the Kona Electric also has nice mags. I still like the Ioniqs better, but these ones are a huge, huge improvement over the old ones. All right, a little further down the side, of course, you can see we've got the marker lights on the mirror still, the blind spot monitoring in the mirror as well. Proximity entry, so you can unlock and lock the door simply by pressing that button as long as the key is in your pocket. And if we go around to the very, very back, you'll see a little bit more of a change in the styling. Guys, the flashing tail lights, that is because the LED's refresh rate is different than the camera's refresh rate. So in person, this just looks solid. It's not flashing. This, of course, is supposed to be flashing. That is the turn signal, of course, and your backup lights there. So that is a completely redesigned tail light. So pretty cool look. You can also see the bottom of the rear bumper is a little different. And of course, on the Ultimate, you get parking sensors in the back as well. Now, the lower trim, the preferred trim, also gets parking sensors in the back. It just doesn't get parking sensors in the front. Let's open up the trunk. Little button right there beside the backup camera. Nothing changed there. And of course, you got a 60/40 split rear bench with the floor that goes right onto the seat back, so you don't have to worry about lifting your items over the seat back. However, the floor does have a little trick. Underneath the floor, you've got your free cargo net that comes with it, the charging cable that comes with it, of course. That's 110 volt J1772 standard power charging cord. You've got your tire repair kit and the spray that goes into the tire. But the trick with the floor is you can actually pull it out, drop it down, and get a little bit of extra height. You'll notice it still ramps up onto the seat back. As far as the privacy cover, that can be very easily removed simply by pulling these tabs off. and then pulling the privacy cover straight out. Now I'm glad that they kept this handle here, so you can actually close the trunk simply by pulling down on this handle and just kind of whip it down just like that, so you don't have to worry about getting your hands dirty. On the roof of the Kona Electric, you do get side rails, so if you wanted to, you could put cross rails on here and mount kayak mount or bike mount or whatever, or storage container. So that's kind of nice. It's one of the few electric vehicles out there that actually has roof rails. All right, so underneath the hood of the 22 Kona Electric, you have obviously an electric motor. This is putting out 201 horsepower, 291 foot-pounds of torque. So this guy will do 0 to 60 miles an hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 6.5 seconds. Very respectable time. Front-wheel drive only, of course. Keep an eye out for the Ioniq 5 coming soon. The cool thing about the Kona, though, for 2022 is they've actually reduced the cost by a couple $1,000, so making room for the Ioniq 5, no doubt. A couple things to note, so still has the accessory battery on the right-hand side there. You still have, of course, the soundproofing insulation along the bottom of the hood. Tons and tons of the structural adhesive, so well over 400 feet of structural adhesive. And of course, Hyundai's patented advanced high-strength steel, which this vehicle is consisting about just over 50% of. So very, very good steel usage, very, very good structural adhesive usage. So it's going to be a top safety pick again. It was last year. It was a top safety pick plus in the top trim with the better headlights, and no doubt will continue to be this year as well. Still has the breakaway motor mounts down here, so in the event of a forward collision, you know, the whole electric motor and the inverter, converter, all of that's going to drop down. It's not going to end up in the passenger compartment. You've got the coolant here for the motor, electric motor, as well as for the battery. So it uses just a typical glycol solution to cool both the battery and the electric motor. You got your brake fluid there. Your heat pump, of course. You got your part of your heat pump system right here. It's a nice, efficient way of heating and cooling the cabin. On the front of the vehicle, you notice we've got the charge door here, so that's still in the same place. The door is shaped a little bit differently. It looks like they did a little bit better job sealing up the actual charge component with this little ridge right here, so that's good to see. Now, of course, it is level 1, level 2, and level 3. So there's your DC fast charge plug right there. And you got your power level indicator here, so when it's charging, you'll actually see these 3 lights flashing. Either 1, 2, or 3 lights will flash blue. Now, with the DC fast charging, assuming you're plugged into at least a 100 kilowatt charger, you should get up to about 80% in roughly 45 minutes. Full charge takes about an hour, maybe a little bit longer. Depends on how warm or how cold it is outside, and obviously what percent you start at. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the back seat. Now, before I jump in, I will point out I have set the front seat to my driving position. So we're gonna go ahead and jump in. I will also point out you have a center cup holder armrest here. It's nice and padded, and the armrests on the doors are nice and padded as well. On the seat back, you have a storage compartment here on the passenger side, none on the driver's side. Also, the seat backs are a nice solid plastic, so anybody sitting back here, if they're bumping that or kicking that, if they're children, you're not going to have to worry about that too much in the driver's seat. That will minimize that quite a bit. Also, new for 2022, heated seats in the back. Woohoo! All right, sitting in the back of the Kona Electric, I've got good headroom, about 2 inches there actually. Even if I sit up straight, can't hit the roof. Decent leg room. I mean, I can put my fingers in between my knees and the seat back. If you do have somebody taller than 6'2" sitting in the front seat, I'm 6'2" by the way, then that seat might be in the way a little bit. However, if you kind of sit relaxed, it's usually not a problem because your knees kind of tend to go outside a little bit as well. There is some room underneath the front seat, not as much as the gas model, of course, because the floor in this vehicle is higher, but I can still stick my feet underneath the front seat. As for comfort, the seat's actually quite comfortable. It's a little bit bigger in here than the outgoing model, than the 2021. It's a little tiny bit longer. So the Kona stretched by about 1.5 inches from the previous year. So I do have a tiny bit more legroom back here than I would have had in the 21. Also, the seats themselves are very, very soft. That seems to have improved as well. You can see the leather's got a new design in the center here, which is kind of cool. Just makes it stand out a little bit more. As I mentioned before, the armrests are quite comfortable. They're cushy. You know, that's kind of a bonus. You've also got grab handles on all 4 positions. You can see here, even one for the driver there. And of course, the rear passengers get an LED light as well. So you've got LED lights on the headliner there, LED light back here. So that's pretty much it for the creature comforts back here. It's nice to see that we've got heated seats though. All right, let's jump in the front, check that out. All right, so before I jump into the front seat, I would like to point out that the passenger seat is manual. However, it does have height adjustment, so that's a plus. The driver's seat is power. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 ways of adjustment via power, and then of course the headrest goes up and down. So a 12-way adjustable seat. Now, one thing with the new 22, you can see we've got some blue stitching on here, so that's kind of cool. So the interior colors range from basically just two. You got a sort of a light gray interior and then this charcoal black interior. Okay, so jumping into the front seat, as you can see, I've got oodles of headroom, so that's not a problem. And of course I can raise and lower the seat as needed. I've got tons of legroom as well. I can really stretch out the legs, not a problem. And if I really wanted to, I can go even further back. Check that out. Okay, so there we go. So it's all the way back now. That's too far back for me to comfortably drive. And I can also tilt the seat up or down as well. Furthering with comfort, we do have a tilt and telescopic wheel. And it's leather wrapped as well, so heated leather wrapped steering wheel. And the seats are also heated and ventilated, so that's a nice touch. So having a look through the interior of the vehicle, I wasn't able to find too much more in the way of changes for 2022. However, there are a couple. So one of the things that I noticed was the steering wheel buttons are actually a little bit different. So instead of a hang up button, you now have a star button. That's customizable. So you can actually change that to do a few different things. I've actually got it on reject phone call as well, but here's the different things you can do. So reject a call, change hands-free calling device, put it into privacy mode, make a voice memo, reroute your directions, cancel the route, quiet mode, and just do nothing. So that's one change there. Another change is the lane follow assist. So the lane follow assist now works at low speeds as well. So the previous 2021 Kona, the lane follow or highway follow, lane keep assist, whatever you want to call it, would only work over 60 kilometers an hour. So a really nice change to see is that you can now do that at low speeds simply by pressing that button. It does still have the highway follow assist on the screen there, but the lane follow assist you activate manually whenever you want it. The lane keep assist will stay on all the time unless you disable it. Another small change for 2022, the design of the side vents. So that's cool. These ones actually look a little bit nicer, a little bit more sleek. The head-up display hasn't changed at all, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. One thing that has changed, though, drastically, is the instrument cluster. So you now have a 10-inch screen in the instrument cluster, and I'll show you a few things on that later on as well. All right, I think that completely covers it now for changes. Oh, except for one thing, the wireless charging pad. So it does still have a wireless charging pad. It's now a higher wattage, so it's one of the fastest in the industry. Of course, keeping in with the wireless charging pads in other Hyundai models, it's a 40-watt charging pad and it's ventilated, so it can actually keep the phone a little bit cooler while it's charging. So pretty cool, charges up a phone faster than pretty much every other company. Another thing I forgot to mention was the key fob now has remote start. Woohoo! So you can now actually remote start the climate control system directly from your key fob. So before you were able to do it from your cell phone using BlueLink, which of course you still can, but now you can also use the key fob, which to be quite frank is a heck of a lot faster. You don't have to log into the app on your phone or anything like that. So nice to see. Thank you, Hyundai, for adding that. That's fantastic. All right, let's go over basically everything. Now, obviously, we've covered the changes in the vehicle. We'll cover everything else now. So starting with the storage compartment. So very big storage compartment. You can see that's a good 8 by 6 inches and about 8 inches deep, so lots of space in there. You also have this little cubby hole right in the front here for keys or whatever. Along the bottom row of buttons, I already covered the heated and ventilated seat, but you have the drive mode button here, which will allow you to put the vehicle into different modes. So if I press that button, you can see the screen changes. Pretty cool. You've got Eco, Sport, and Normal. Eco mode, of course, that's going to give you the best range possible. It's going to reduce the power going to your climate control system. It's going to reduce the total power that you have at the accelerator pedal, and just allow you to go a little bit further by saving that energy. Normal mode is kind of in between. You'll notice, of course, that the dials changed as well, which is pretty cool. Sport mode is going to tighten up the steering wheel, but it's also going to give you more low-end kick as well. And that's all controlled, of course, by this button. Now, if you hold this button down, you can put the vehicle into what's called Eco Plus. So if we do that now, Eco Plus, there we go. So it actually killed off the climate control system. I have no climate control anymore. It's limited our top speed as well. I think it's by default limiting to 90 kilometers an hour, and it just makes the vehicle a little bit more sluggish. We're going to turn that back on because we don't want to sit here and cook because it's 30 degrees out. All right, there we go. Heated steering wheel, that's the button for that there. You got the auto hold. Auto hold, basically what that does is it holds the vehicle from moving when you take your foot off the brake. So if I put the auto hold on, it shows up right down here. It says auto hold. And now when I take my foot off the brake, we're not moving. Now we'll only start to move once I press the accelerator. There we go, we're moving. Come to a stop. The auto hold light goes back on to green, and then take my foot off. And again, not moving. So that's what auto hold does, okay? That's pretty cool. Personally, don't like it. I always leave it off. We've got the power e-brake here. And of course you have the fly-by-wire transmission control. So, well, transmission. There's no transmission, but you got your drive, reverse, park, and neutral. Now, guys, if you decide to buy an electric car, I want to share a little tip with you. Anytime you have an electric car, most of your braking power is going to be done by regenerative braking. If you always use regenerative braking and your pads get little use, then what will happen is your brake rotors will start to corrode. To completely avoid that from happening, what you can actually do is every couple of weeks, maybe when you're going down a big hill or coming off the highway on an off-ramp, put the car into neutral, which you can do while driving, okay? You can press that in for neutral. You'll have no, obviously no acceleration power or anything like that. But when you press the brake pedal and it's in neutral, when you press the brake pedal, it'll actually have disabled regenerative braking and it'll allow you to use your brake pads. It'll keep those discs nice and clean. So do that on any electric car and it'll keep the brake discs nice and clean. Now, one of the things I really love about this fly-by-wire push-button system is, well, actually there's two things I love about it. So first thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to put the seatbelt on here and I'm going to put it into drive, which we're already on drive. All right, so start driving. All right, so now I'm going to leave it in drive. I'm not going to touch that. You can see the D on the screen there. I'm going to take my seatbelt off. I'm going to open my door and boom, it's in park. So by itself, it automatically selected park for me, knowing that I was about to get out of the car. Obviously, it'd be a very dangerous situation if I left it in drive. The car would start to drive forward by itself. Mind you, unless auto hold is on, but still, it's kind of dangerous because any touch of the gas pedal releases the auto hold. The other cool thing is when we have the e-brake turned on and we put the car into drive. Now, I've got to put the seatbelt on again for this, so let's do that. So now we put the vehicle into drive, but before I do that, I'm going to put the phone at the screen here. You can see the e-brake is currently on, and now I'm going to hit D for drive, and boom, it's released the e-brake. So because it's an electronic shifting transmission, again, it's not really shifting, I'll explain that in a second, but it knows that, okay, they're going into drive or reverse, we should probably take the e-brake off. So it does that all automatically, and that's, the types of things you can do with these push-button systems. So, does the vehicle have a transmission? No, it actually has what's called a single reduction gearbox. So basically, connected to the electric motor, there's two gears, one big, one small. One's connected to the motor, the other's connected to the differential, which then is connected to the CV shafts, which go out to the wheels. So basically what it's doing is it's taking the speed of the motor, reducing it by half, but then increasing the torque because of that by 2 times. If the motor was connected directly to the wheels, you'd have half as much torque. So it's allowing the motor to spin up nice and fast and give you basically twice the amount of torque than what would normally come out of that motor. All right, next to the buttons there, we've got 2 cup holders, and they do have the little springy guys here, so you can put multiple sized cups in there, and they're pretty deep as well, so lots of space there. You've got your spot for your cell phone. Of course, that's also where the wireless charging pad is. You got the Qi wireless charging pad light that comes on right there if it's actually successfully charging. Below that, you have a USB port, which allows you to connect to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Underneath the console, as you can see, we have extra storage space, and that's another thing you can do if you don't have a shifter. And in that storage space, you may have noticed on the one side we have the 12-volt outlet, and then on the passenger side we have a USB port that, you'll notice, is lit up. Other manufacturers, Toyota, I'm looking at you, light up your USB ports. And of course we can close that cover up and look above it. So we have the climate control system here. It is the automatic climate control system. It's single zone. However, there is a driver only option. So if you want to completely disable the passenger side, you can hit driver only, which will save you a little bit extra energy. You've also got automatic climate control with automatic defrost. I always turn off the auto defrost, and to do that you press and hold the front defrost button until, there we go, it says ADS off. Now the reason that I do that is because, to be honest, the automatic defrost system is a little bit too sensitive. I find that it comes on when it doesn't need to come on. And when it's defrosting the window, it needs to put the heat pump into AC mode, cooling mode. So you'll get cooler air in the winter. It's just not ideal. There is a PTC heater as well, like a resistance heater that tries to heat that air up, but it just doesn't work as well as the heat pump. So personally, I turn off the auto defrost and then just turn it on when necessary. Another cool thing with the auto defrost, or with the automatic climate control system, is when you use the windshield washer, you're going to notice something kind of cool. So there is the recirculate button right there. Watch what happens when I pull the windshield washer fluid. You notice that the light just came on. So it actually automatically puts the climate control system in recirculate when you use the defrost, so you don't have to smell the defrost fluid. How cool is that? And that's actually something that you can enable and disable as well, really, really easily. On the top right corner, you can see we've got the climate button. So if we want to see exactly what's going on with the climate control, press the climate button. It brings up this screen, shows you that it's in automatic. There's the driver only option right there, which is not lit up. Shows you what it's doing. So currently it's AC, and you can enable and disable the auto settings here. So the activate recirculation upon usage of washer fluid. You can also see we've got auto dehumidify and auto defrost or defog, which I mentioned earlier. The auto dehumidify, the vehicle is actually detecting the humidity levels in the vehicle, and it'll basically dehumidify if it finds that they're too high. So kind of cool. All right, looking back over at the windshield washer stock again, just for a moment, I wanted to show you it does have auto wipers as well. So up on the windshield here, there's an infrared light and infrared light sensor that detects rain on the windshield and turns on the auto wiper. Now, one thing with the wiper stock, guys, this is something I wish every company did, but not every company does. Basically, when you turn on the wiper, you'll notice it actually shows you what setting you're in right here on the screen. Every single Hyundai has done that for years now. It's pretty cool, with I think the exception of the base model Elantras a couple of years ago, but they do now. So anytime you change, you know, the aggressiveness of the automatic function, or if you put it in low or high or whatever, it all shows up there. So even if your steering wheel is blocking it, you can still see what setting you're in. Same goes for the gear selector. It'll also do that on the screen as well. And that's, you know, those are two small little things that other companies aren't doing for whatever reason. On the left-hand side, of course, you have your light stock. Now, of course, same thing. When you change the lights, you'll notice it also shows you in that screen. It does have automatic headlights as well, of course, and the one-touch turn signal, which you can enable and disable, and you can change the interval. You can put it on 3, 5, or 7 flashes. And of course, that's also your high beam stock. On the steering wheel, you see we've got paddles right here, one on that side, one on that side. This paddle, if held down, will actually bring a vehicle to a complete stop. Now, what the two paddles are actually for is to change the regeneration level. So you can see, as long as we're in drive, which level of regeneration we're in. So we're currently in level 3. If I pull the right paddle, you can see down to 2, 0, there we go. So now it's no longer in regeneration. If I pull the left paddle, I can then increase the amount of regeneration. And if I turn it off and then hold the left paddle, it jumps up to level 3 until I release the left paddle. So now it's no longer going to regenerate at all until I hit the brake pedal. So that's a big common misconception a lot of people have. The auto regeneration system it's always on. So even if you don't use the paddles behind the steering wheel, when you press the brake pedal, it's actually going to use regenerative braking as much as possible. Every EV does this. Now, the reason for that is because, well, that's how they recapture a lot of that waste energy from when you're going downhill or coming to a stop. If it didn't do that, yes, you'd be using the brake pads all the time, which would then, of course, wear out faster, and your range overall just wouldn't be as good. So anytime you hit the brake pedal, with the exception of when the car is in neutral, it's going to use the regeneration braking system. All right, let's do a little bit of a deep dive into this screen. We won't spend too much time here, but a couple things to show you and to note. So again, when we change the drive mode, of course, you get the cool screens. Now, what's nice about this is you can actually set this screen up so that it's always in one of those particular images. So if I go into the setup button here, and then into vehicle, and then go to cluster, I can select the theme, A, B, C, or cube. So if we put it on A, it looks like that. Here's B, C, and then cube. Cube is one that you won't see when it's in the different drive modes, but it's kind of neat. You've got your speedometer, or your speedometer on the left-hand side, and your kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers on the right-hand side. Keep in mind, guys, that's currently inaccurate. That's because the vehicle hasn't really been on any drives yet. In the center of the screen, I'm going to change that back actually. In the center of the screen, you have your tire pressure monitor currently, but this button on the steering wheel here allows you to change what's in the center screen. So if I press that button, we get the attention level. There's also a rocker button right underneath that I can go up or down with. And you can see we have attention level and the lane keep assist screen. The attention level, basically that's monitoring your driving habits and seeing if you're getting tired or not. So that's what that is. Let me take my seatbelt off here. Sorry for any noise that might have occurred from the seatbelt, guys. If I press that top button again, it shows us our drive info. We can look at consumption information, our digital speedometer, energy flow, that sort of thing. Pretty cool. Here we have our compass, which will actually also show us our turn-by-turn directions. So if we set a navigation route, which I'll get to a little bit later on, but I'm going to go ahead and navigate somewhere here. Find the nearest Canadian Tire. Line 1. All right, so you'll notice we have now our turn-by-turn directions right there on the screen, but also in the head-up display. Check it out. So I can actually see our turn-by-turn directions. We also have our speedometer, our lane keep assist information, as well as the blind spot monitoring info as well. And even the radio station that you happen to be playing will all show up in that instrument cluster, or in that head-up display. But going back to the instrument cluster, I'm going to go ahead and press that top button again, and it's going to switch over to our tire pressure monitor, and then it goes back to the attention level. And you'll notice, if you're familiar with Hyundai vehicles, that there's no user settings in here anymore. That's because that's now on the big screen, on the, well, it's actually also a 10-inch screen, but that's on that screen now instead of this screen. A couple other things that we can see in here. When the car is running, you'll see that little green guy there. You've got your range till empty on the bottom left-hand corner, so 168 kilometers until the battery's empty. On the right, it shows us whether or not we're using power or if we're charging. Also, of course, as I mentioned before, your regeneration level. The drive mode that you're in, we happen to be in eco mode. Sorry, I'm gonna get right up close. 28 kilometers on the odometer. And then up here, the gear that is currently selected, whether or not we're in the lane keep assist system. So if that's green, that means it's functional. I can press this guy right here on the steering wheel to have the lane follow assist come up. So either one of those, when they're in green, that means that they are functional. All right, so before I get to the big screen, just a couple little things I forgot to mention. On the left-hand side here, you can enable and disable the front and rear parking sensors. You can enable and disable the automatic unlock system for the charging cable. You can also put up and put down the head-up display. So if I press that button, you'll notice the head-up display goes away and it gets covered. Yes, so you don't have to worry about dust landing on that screen. And what's really nice is when you shut the car off and lock the doors, it does the same thing. It puts that screen away, so you don't have to worry about it getting dirty or dusty or anything like that. All right, up on the mirror, you can see we've got the Blue Link button. So Blue Link is free in Canada for 3 years. You got call for roadside assistance, You've got Google Navigation Assistance and an Emergency Assistance button. You've also got 3 home link buttons for garage doors and gates. Up in the headliner, you've got a nice spot for your sunglasses, and you got your controls for your lights. All the interior lights are LED, as I mentioned, and of course control for your sunroof. And here's another little tip and trick, guys, for a Hyundai vehicle with a standard size sunroof. Once it's open all the way, press that button back again, and it goes a little bit further back. The reason it does that is to stop that crazy buffeting noise when your windows are closed. However, if any of your other windows are open, hit that button again to open up the sunroof a little bit further. The side visors both extend, they both have lights, and they both have mirrors. All right, so finally having a look at the beautiful 10-inch screen. First thing I'd like to point out, this is a non-polarized screen. So if you wear polarized sunglasses, you will still be able to see what's on this screen very easily. So yeah, very nice clear screen. It's 10 inches from corner to corner. It's very bright, and of course it has a night mode as well. When we put the vehicle into reverse, we get the backup camera up on that screen. You'll notice we have dynamic steering lines. Again, a very, very clear image. And check this out. If I press this button here, I can actually change it to a top-down view. You can see the bumper along the bottom here, and you still get the dynamic steering lines. The camera is so clear, you can even see the crack in the ground. Check that out. Now, if we go back to the regular view, you can also see the bumper. It's a very wide-angle lens, so really, really easy to back this car up. And it's got a spectacular turning radius, so maneuvering in tight spaces, definitely not going to be an issue. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, we have the parking sensors. So if you approach a vehicle, it's actually going to use those parking sensors, the front sensors. There we go. And if I turn a little bit, see if I can get the other one to come on. There, so you saw it come up just for a second. I'm going to reorientate a little bit here. There we go. So it's actually using those forward sensors now and giving me a good indication of how much space I have in front of me. Now, of course, the exact same thing is going to happen in reverse, but I'm going to go ahead and put it into park and stop that beeping and continue on with the screen. Now, we've got the home button up in the top left-hand corner here. So a few things to note. On the main home screen, you've got your outside temperature, the current station that's playing, a little bit of information about your map, your turn-by-turn directions and stuff will come up here as well, the time. But if we slide over, you'll notice there's actually 3 home screens. This is the main one, this is the middle one, and then this is the far right side. In the middle one, you've got your EV screen. Nothing's changed here from last year. It's basically the same information, your energy information, how long it's going to take to charge on the various charging levels. It gives you a map and a range on the map to show you roughly how far you can go with the current battery. Your charge management system, here's where you can actually set up a scheduled climate system. So if you leave for work at 7 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday, you can actually set it up so that not only is the battery prepped and ready to go, but the interior is prepped and ready to go at the temperature that you like as well. All right, also back on the home screen, you see we've got the navigation menu. So if you don't like to use the voice recognition like I just did, you can go into here and set addresses simply by the actual address. You can also find points of interest here as well. So a typical navigation system, but honestly, one of the best in the industry. It works spectacularly well. Quiet mode is kind of cool, so that's going to limit the front speaker volume, and it's going to completely disable the rear speaker. So if you have kids sleeping in the back, you can quickly hit that button to quiet down the cabin. HD radio data pulls data from various FM stations and provides that radio data on the screen for you, including weather. On the next screen, we'll see we've got sounds of nature. So if you haven't seen that already, it's kind of neat. So if you like to listen to calming sounds while driving or maybe while charging, you can put it on lively forest, calm sea waves, rainy day, open air cafe, a nice warm fireplace, or a snowy village. And years later, they still haven't added any new ones. Come on, Hyundai. And if I go into setup, you can see we've got lots of cool options in the vehicle setup, which I'll show you real quick. So the smart cruise control reaction speed, you can change from fast, normal, or slow. You can also enable and disable highway driving assist, highway auto speed change. This is kind of cool. This is a new one for 2022. It adjusts the vehicle speed automatically based on navigation data. So if it knows that there's a sharp corner coming up, your cruise control will actually slow down to prevent you flying through that corner. How cool is that? We also have, let's see what's cool in here, your driver attention warning. So as you're driving, it will actually monitor your steering input, your gas and brake input, your throttle, your accelerator and brake input, and also how long you've been on the road, and it may actually tell you to take a coffee break. You've also got leading vehicle departure. If there's a car in front of you and it starts to drive off, the car will actually give you a warning saying, hey, there's no car in front of you anymore. You've got active assist, forward safety, so it has autonomous emergency braking. But some new features from Hyundai recently are cyclist detection, pedestrian detection. Those are two that have been around for a little bit longer. But junction assist. So if you're coming up to a left turn and you're waiting for the cars to pass by and you think it's safe to go, if your car recognizes that there's a car coming towards you, it will not let you make that left turn. How cool is that? So very, very safe vehicle. Of course, you have blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert and active assist now. So if it detects that there's a risk of a collision behind you, it will actually use the brakes to stop you. Pretty cool. Here's also where you can change head-up display settings, so you can adjust the screen height, the head-up display height and stuff like that. You can also change what contents come up in the head-up display. So currently, of course, you can see we've got the digital speedometer. I don't know if you can see it, but you got digital speedometer, lane keep assist, lane follow assist, and then also the turn-by-turn directions. But you can also have traffic signs. So if it detects the speed limit, based on the map, so it doesn't actually see traffic signs, but if it knows what the traffic speed is, it'll actually give you a little speed location in the screen there. Blind spot safety information, so if there's a car in your blind spot, that'll also show up in the head-up display, and if you're playing music, it'll show you what song is playing. Here's where I could go through and change the cluster theme, as I mentioned earlier. We can also change the content on the screen. So here's what I was showing you earlier as well, wiper lights display. So when you change the wipers or the lights, it's going to show you in the display system there. But also you can have in that instrument cluster the traffic signs and icy road warnings as well. All right, and finally, the only other thing I want to show you on this screen, because otherwise this video is going to be an hour long, but you can actually change the screen layout. So not only can you have, you know, for instance, right now we have the full screen here, but if we go to the map, we can actually have it split screen. And we can have different things on the right-hand side here, including another map, which is kind of funny. But you can put on things like your battery information, your range information, the time, the compass, the outside temperature. Well, actually, this is your full weather information. You have BlueLink set up. The stereo, so if you're listening to music, it'll actually show you what's playing here. And then back to map. So kind of cool that you can bring up those different things as well. So that's all I'm going to cover on the screen for now. If you want to have more information about how these screens work, please do check out my other Hyundai videos where I've gone into a little bit more in-depth information about them. But quite frankly, those are the sort of main things that you'd be using anyway. So, all right. I think that pretty much covers it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I implore you, please click like, click subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and don't forget to comment below if you have any questions at all. And if you're looking at one of these vehicles, if you're interested and you happen to be in British Columbia, the lower half at least, give me a call. Give me a call at Merton Hyundai. We're located in Chilliwack. Thank you so much. Have a great day.